Are you a parent navigating the complexities of co-parenting, family court, or even domestic violence? If you are looking for ways to help protect your children and build a strong and supportive community around you, then look no further. Gray Minds Think Alike is your go-to resource for everything related to the complexities of family life. Join us as we dive into thoughtful conversations with experts and explore practical tips and strategies for tackling the challenges of parenthood in the throes of adversity so that no parent feels alone and every child's safety is protected. Welcome back to Gray Minds Think Alike, where we dive deep into the conversations that matter most with experts who enlighten, inspire, and empower. I'm your host, Ali Kessler, and today we're diving into something many of us struggle with: rebuilding confidence, finding balance, and healing after trauma. My guest today is Ramya Shripati, a certified human potential life coach who helps people transform limiting beliefs and build self-confidence to step into their true potential. Ramya specializes in guiding survivors of narcissistic abuse through shadow work, inner child healing, somatic recovery, Reiki, and CPTSD healing. Her integrative approach blends psychology, spirituality, and energy work. She guides clients to not only face their pain, but also integrate it and use it as a source of strength. So if you've ever felt stuck, silenced, or like you've lost yourself in the chaos of court battles or toxic relationships, this conversation is for you. So thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our audience. I would just love to just set the stage with a brief introduction of who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ali. So I'm Ramya Shripati and I'm from India. And from childhood, I've been a hardcore people pleaser. So I would not speak up. And even if someone crosses my boundaries, I would still be like, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. This is something that I'm okay to let go. But what actually happened with years of suppressing myself, I started developing some issues with my thyroid gland. It started growing rapidly and pressing my windpipe and my food pipe, and the doctor said we need to surgically remove this now.
Wow.
So in 2018, I had a thyroid removal surgery, and post that, I came across the fact that if you suppress your emotions, your throat chakra gets impacted, and the thyroid is located in the throat chakra. So I realized the impact and the importance of speaking up, of the ability to say no to others, or to speak up for our own self. And I thought, okay, if I couldn't save my thyroid, I could probably speak about this and create awareness about this so that others could save their organs and not go through this, right? So earlier to becoming a life coach, I was in the HR profession for many years. So I worked with Accenture, Tesco, and few other companies. And I'm married. I have 2 kids. And while I was taking a break from work, I wanted to move into the space of psychology. I did my certification in life coaching and moved into the life coaching space in 2020. And I set up my coaching business, which is called Activate.you. And I help clients to recover from something called narcissistic abuse, which is nothing but psychological abuse, emotional, verbal abuse, and also physical abuse. So
I know it well.
Yeah. So what I understand is in society, people identify and they openly acknowledge or understand physical abuse, whereas with emotional, psychological, or verbal abuse, it is more like pushed under the carpet. And people are told this is how things are, this is how elders are, this is how parents or in-laws are, you just need to accept it. And I think that years of suppression and not being able to say no to them kind of flares up and it comes out as diseases. So that's the work I do, and I help people to overcome it, set boundaries, and start the healing journey.
Okay. I know there's many of us that need all of that. So can you just tell me exactly what a human potential life coach is? I guess it's someone that helps you find your potential.
Yeah. Okay, let me be honest with you. So when I finished my life coaching course, I was not too sure. We were asked to pick a niche as a coaching niche. And I come from a HR background. So human potential life coach sounded like, okay, this is the thing that I need to do, bring out people's their potential. But a year into being a life coach, I realized there were a lot of people who were coming to me with issues of psychological abuse, which is I would connect the dots and tell them, "Oh, look up something called narcissistic abuse." And they'll be like, wow, this is exactly what it is, right? So I was very interested that there was a dearth of people who understand narcissistic abuse. So then from human potential life coach, I moved into being a narcissistic abuse coach. So now I'm like, yeah, apart from human potential, I'm a narcissistic abuse coach and a shadow work coach as well.
Very good. Now, for listeners who may be new to this, what exactly is shadow work and how can it help survivors of trauma?
Yeah. So shadow work is based on the work of Carl Jung. He is a famous psychologist.
Okay.
And he's developed this work to go into our unconscious part of our mind to dig out the beliefs which are there. And actually, those unconscious beliefs are what drives our behavior. So, suppose I'm a people pleaser, it's my belief that if I say no to others, I won't be liked. So I need to go down to the root of why I behave that way or why I don't speak up for myself and start making changes there. So shadow work helps with a set of like questioning which goes to the root cause, and it helps the clients to uncover and discover their real self, their authentic self. And there's something called a gold shadow, which is there inside all of us. And we suppress it under layers of trauma, under layers of life experiences. So through shadow work, we can actually uncover that gold shadow.
Lovely. So we all have a gold shadow.
Yeah, we all do. We all are special.
Yeah. How does one go about discovering it? What type of ways?
So there are a list of questions which we go through
Okay. Yep.
in the coaching session. So it goes to the root cause. So people are able to see what are the blind spots and what are the
Okay.
limiting beliefs which are holding them back. And for example, if a person has an issue with being a perfectionist, so we help them to go down to the root cause. And the root cause could be something as simple as they saw a parent who was a perfectionist and they created a belief that I also need to be perfect. And if I'm not perfect, then I'm not good enough. So we go down to, there's a list of questions for each of those shadows that we hold within us. And we go down and identify and go to the root cause and then start new beliefs there.
All right. Now let's talk about narcissistic abuse recovery. What challenges do you see most often in survivors of narcissistic abuse, and how can you help them break free of those patterns?
Yeah, this
Because
is a
that's
very,
something that I personally went through.
yeah,
I told you that my son was killed by his father, who was a narcissist and abused me for Grayson's entire life. And I was coercive controlled. And in order to get back at me, he killed our son. So my goal here is to help others break
yeah.
free from this.
Yeah, I'm truly sorry for what you experienced, and I hope nobody ever has to experience losing a child because I think there's no grief deeper than that. So I'm
Yes.
truly sorry for your loss. And
Thank you.
for anybody else who is still in your situation and still trying to navigate, so what I would say is the main thing that is missing in our society is awareness about what is
Right.
narcissistic abuse. Because if
Yes.
you go to friends and family, they will look at the facade which the narcissist creates in society, right? And they are the most charming, most generous, most likable personalities. So you carry a lot of cognitive dissonance within you to even go and tell someone that, hey, actually, I think I'm being abused. So there's so much of shame and confusion and guilt in the mind of a survivor because they don't even realize that what is happening with them is abuse. So I think with more awareness, hopefully this shift will happen where people will start recognizing that, okay, these are red flags. If I'm confused about how I feel about my partner, that means there is a possibility that I'm being abused. And while I say this, I also tell my clients that don't go around diagnosing everybody as a narcissist because
Correct.
only psychologists can do that through a diagnosis. But having said that, if somebody is being toxic to you, you will know, your body will know. Your body will give you that intuition and the red flags. And in fact, I tell a lot of people when you're dating, the butterflies in your stomach is not excitement. It is actually
Right.
your body
Nerves.
warning you. Yeah.
Right.
Your body is warning you, saying that no, this person is not safe. Take yourself away from this person. But we mistake it as, okay, this must be real love. It is chemistry and the heart is beating fast and all those things. So I hope that through this work of narcissistic abuse awareness, that people start realizing that this is real. This is not imagined. This is not something small. This is not something to just dismiss and invalidate and say every couple has fights. Every marriage has quarrels and issues, right? This is a communication issue. So this is what usually people will tell in society when you try to go and tell them that, hey, I think there is a problem in this, right? So there are very few people who will actually sit down with you and say that I hear you. I understand. This is difficult. How can I help you? So if I think in society there are more people who are open and supportive instead of being judgmental, that shift will help survivors to come out of it. Because when they are in a place where they have to keep justifying what's happening or proving that what they're going through is trauma, that
Right.
re-traumatizes them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when someone comes to you and has these type of issues, do you tell them that this is narcissistic abuse? Like you identify it for them?
Yeah. So they come and tell me, like, what do you think this is? Some of them are aware of the term narcissistic abuse and they ask me, do you think my husband is a narcissist? Do you think my mother in law is a narcissist? Do you think my mother is a narcissist? So I tell them, look, I'm not going to diagnose or label them, but there's a big difference between somebody who just has a few narcissistic traits versus a person who has a narcissistic personality disorder. So that is a dark triad, the narcissistic personality disorder, because those people are out to get you and they have a victim and they're going to attack only that particular victim. So the coercive control, the hot and cold behavior, and everything is targeted towards only that one person, right? Whereas a person with grandiose personality and narcissistic traits will be the same with everyone. They won't be like, okay, I'm going to show off only to that one person or not to the other person. They're going to be like, oh, look at my flashy phone, look at my expensive jewelry, or things like that. So they're going to be the same. So that's the difference. So a person with narcissistic traits is not dangerous, but a person with narcissistic personality disorder, I would say run. Just keep yourself as far as possible away from them and limit interactions. And also, if possible,
And what about if there's children involved?
Yeah, so that becomes a very tricky situation. So, in fact, there's a guy called Carl Knickerbocker, and he's written a book, a lovely book called Parallel Parenting. It's like a blue color book.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a very good resource for anyone who is navigating with a narcissistic co-parent. Because what I've seen with my clients is the abuse does not end with divorce. Even after divorce, the abuse continues, and in some cases, it even escalates. So, in that book, he gives tips on how to deal with such situations and how to set boundaries, how to limit interaction so that you're not constantly being reeled into the narcissist chaos, because narcissists love to create chaos. They love to have control over you, right? So you need to pull back that control. You need to shut that door on them and just gray rock. It's called, I don't know if you're familiar with this term. It's called gray rocking. Have you come across that?
Yeah, I know all about it.
Okay, right. So once you do all those, I think you can save yourself to some extent. But I would say, sadly, the abuse sometimes does not end just with divorce. So it's a long haul.
So how do you recommend getting, I don't want to say getting over because you'll never really get over, but how do you work with the trauma after the fact? Someone like me that obviously will suffer the rest of my life. But maybe not someone, that went through something as tragic as myself, but even if they were in a toxic relationship or some family member, how can they get themselves back to good?
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost thing is breath work, because our nervous system is in fight or flight. When you experience narcissistic abuse, you're in that constant fight or flight, and your nervous system keeps sending you signals that I'm not safe and all these things are happening to me right now. The grief is still fresh, right? And grief gets stored in the heart and the lungs. So in shadow work, we also have learned that there are certain sounds which help in healing the different emotions which get trapped in different organs. So grief and trauma get stored in the heart and the lungs, and the sound to start healing that is like a snake hissing.
Okay. Is this what the somatic healing is?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So this is where the somatic healing kicks in. So I teach my clients some of these things. So for example, anger gets stored in your liver, right? To release that anger, the sound is, so whenever you feel that anger, you hold or touch wherever your liver is and keep telling these sounds and imagining that you are releasing that anger from your body. So it's when we don't express that grief or the anger, it gets stored in the body. And that's why we stay in a loop. of continuously feeling that we're in fight or flight. And the
Right.
example I give to my clients is it's like literally like you're in a war field and you're not given a break. You're literally just standing there looking for enemies, looking for danger, and you're not given a break. So your nervous system starts crumbling down, right? So it
Yeah.
needs that sense of safety. So breath work is very important. So have you heard of pranayama?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so pranayama is basically like different kinds of breath work.
Okay.
It's about controlling your breath, slowing down your breath, and becoming conscious of our breath, right?
It's
And that
like
is the one.
meditation in a way,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little.
and calms your system. It sends a signal to your brain that all is well, you're safe now. Because if you're thinking of something traumatic which happened in the past, your brain does not realize this happened in the past. It makes you experience that pain in the present moment, and that's why you sometimes tend to cry when you think of something traumatic which was in the past, right? So we need to retrain our brain. So for all survivors out there who are listening, you need to start working on retraining your brain to feeling that sense of safety and calm in your own body. Because if you're not feeling that safety or calm in your own body, it's very hard to get over it. And there's like another thing. I don't know if you can see my hands.
Yes.
Can you see what I've done?
Yeah.
Do you want to try
Inner
this?
thumb,
Yeah. So just yeah. And like a
interlace your
butterfly.
thumbs and make a little
Yeah,
butterfly.
yeah. Yeah. And then tap it on your chest.
I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, there we go.
Just tap.
Okay.
How does it
Yeah.
feel? Does that
Calming.
feel
Yeah.
calming? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So whenever you feel your heart racing, whenever you're feeling anxious, so you could do this. Or if you don't want to do this whole drama, you can just tap with one hand,
For
right?
our
Just feel,
listeners, we made a little hand butterfly and just tap your chest with it. So
yeah.
I know for me, if I was doing all of this breath work, I'd sound like a musician because I have all kinds of emotions at all times. I'll be shushing and snaking and all the time. What's the sound to make for anxiety?
Anxiety, again, it is, first of all, you need to calm the grief which is there because the grief is what brings out the anxiety. So you can tell the sound, which is the
Okay,
sound for the
okay,
lungs. And for the heart, the sound is huh. Just
okay.
like a sigh, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so just and also just taking like a deep breath in, and there's something called box breathing. So that's
Okay.
very simple. So you visualize a box in front of you, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, then 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, again, then
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in. So you cannot do that. And actually, the beauty of doing this, it cuts the overthinking. So anxiety comes
Right.
from a lot of overthinking which is happening, right? So it's like your whole
Absolutely.
system is heated up. It needs cooling down. It needs a reset. So when you kind of slow down your breath, you're able to calm down your anxiety and you're able to stay more calm.
Very true. Now, what are
Mhm.
some other practical tools for parents or people staying grounded during manipulation or gaslighting or high conflict co parenting, aside from the breathing techniques?
Yeah. So one thing is to remember to not engage. So in
Not
fact,
engage.
even
Yep.
today, to not engage. Yeah. So there is a technique called DARVO. Are you aware of that?
Yes. Someone else spoke
DARVO.
about it. Yep.
Oh, okay. So that is what narcissists do, right? So when you try to bring up an issue, like obviously when you're parenting together, there will be 101 issues to discuss. So when you go to them and try to discuss the issue, saying that, hey, I'm upset about this. Can we have a conversation about it? So they will not ever tell you, okay, I hear you. Let's have a conversation, mature conversation. So instead, what they will do is they will throw it back on you, saying that you did this or you said this and you hurt me and you're supposed to apologize. And even before you realize, instead of holding them accountable for something wrong they did, you are defending yourself for something that they're accusing you. And sometimes it's even false accusations. So the thing to remember when you're co-parenting with a high conflict parent is do not take the bait. It's literally a mantra you have to keep telling yourself. So mantra is something that like a chant, right? You
Yeah.
keep repeating it. So you need to mentally keep creating that new thought loop that I will not engage with this. Because the example again I give is pigs like to roll in the mud. We don't need to go and roll in the mud with them. The pig enjoys it and we feel happy about it. So
Yeah.
we don't
No,
need to
I learned
engage
all
with.
of that the hard way because my son's father would send relentless amount of text messages that were disparaging and whatnot. And at first I wanted to defend myself. I wrote back and whatnot. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I am not
Mm.
engaging in this. I am not writing back unless it's logistics regarding Grayson and school pickup or whatnot. I have no reason to speak with him or even answer a text message. So I started
Okay.
to not, but I feel like that sort of
Not
fueled him a little bit. And then he would always escalate to another level.
Yeah, yeah, because they don't like to accept defeat, right? So when you don't take the bait, it is almost like they have to accept defeat because they're not able to get through to you. But you need
So
to
they got to
ensure.
step it up.
Yeah, yeah. So I tell my clients, even if you want to cry, do not cry in front of the narcissist. Do not cry in front of them because it literally gives them that supply, that
Right.
happiness, right? That
Yep.
there's a word for it, Schadenfreude. Have you heard of that? Schadenfreude, when you
Okay.
feel happy,
Yep.
when when someone else is in pain, when
Right.
someone else is suffering.
Yeah.
So when you
Dr.
look at
Ramani talks about
comfort,
this a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. We had
Dr.
her on.
Me, she's like a
Yeah.
she's like
She's
a
a
god.
god. Yeah.
She's
We
like
just had her on
the
recently and she talks all about
okay.
all that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
And in fact, I learned a lot about narcissistic abuse from her videos because I was like, wow, this woman knows
she,
everything. She kind of just lays it out bare. So
yeah,
yeah, so she has amazing books also
she
and
does. Yep.
amazing YouTube videos. So I kind
She
of
does.
redirect my clients to her as well. But what I realized is in India, so there are not too many experts or specialists who kind of work specifically for narcissistic abuse. And what my clients tell me is, especially if they go for couples therapy, so the narcissist uses even couples therapy for their own favor. Like they go and pretend with the therapist like they are good people and they're trying so hard to work on this marriage or relationship, and this person is the unreasonable one, and the clients end up defending themselves to the therapist, and the
Right.
therapist is this is just a communication issue. There are very few therapists also who kind of identify and say there's something wrong with this person, and this person is actually gaslighting you or pulling you through a lot of nonsense. So there are very few people who are aware. So I would say for people who are going through this, it's okay to therapist shop, it's okay to coach shop till you find the person who gets you, understands you. And it's not just about having a person saying, yes, what you're going through is hard, but it's also a person who is going to validate your experiences and also show you the way forward. Because a lot of people, a lot of survivors tend to get stuck in a rut, right? And going
Sure.
like on the hamster wheel, they're not able
Yep.
to come out of it. There's
Right.
the CPTSD, which I wrote about in my introduction. So that means complex post-trauma stress disorder. And this is something that happens to people who experience chronic abuse. So when a soldier goes to the war and comes back, after one war, he experiences something called post-trauma stress disorder, which is PTSD, because it's after a one-time event. But CPTSD is
Gotcha.
complex. It's complex
Right.
post-trauma stress disorder. And most survivors of narcissistic abuse are not diagnosed. But I'm very sure they have this because the research says that most people develop this disorder. And how does this disorder look like? A lot of anxiety attacks, a lot of overthinking, insomnia, dark circles around the eyes.
Well, then I have all of that.
Yeah. So it's really sad. It's really sad that there's somebody out there who literally just thinks that they can destroy another person's soul,
Yeah.
right? And this
Well,
survivor.
they did. They certainly did with me. And he knew that the only thing that could ever really hurt me is to hurt my child. So they
Yeah.
succeeded, but I'm still here. So I'm winning because I refuse to let him have the final say. So that's why we
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, why
I'm
do you
so
think it's so hard to get help? Like maybe through the courts or whatnot? Why is it so hard to get help when you say, oh, this person's a narcissist and he's
okay.
hurting me?
Okay. So one thing I tell all my clients, don't use the term narcissist in the court, right? Because
Yes.
most of the lawyers don't
They don't like that.
understand, nor do they have the time, the empathy to empathize, right? So the word to use is high conflict partner, right? So instead of calling the person a narcissist, I would encourage people to use the term high conflict partner.
Okay.
And secondly, in courts, I don't think so many people are aware of the psychological background or what narcissism is all about or how insidious it actually is. So they don't get it. They just think, oh, this person is just overly sensitive. Like even if you break down in a court session, right? So the judge may just dismiss you saying that you come back when you're more calm and collected. I don't want this drama in my courtroom, right? So nobody is going to really sit with you. So it's very important to rehearse, to practice what you're going to say, and to have a lawyer who is very good in understanding high conflict personalities. If not narcissistic, at least they should know how manipulative high conflict personalities are so that, you can also strategize. So in fact, I tell my clients, why don't you learn chess?
Right.
So, because chess is a game which forces you to strategize, chess is a
Right.
game which makes you believe that you cannot just be naive. If you want to protect yourself, you need to observe your opponent. You need to see what are their strengths and weaknesses, what are their patterns, and then you need to work around to protect yours. So, that kind of gives your brain a new path, a new way of thinking. Because if a survivor thinks of themselves as a victim, they don't move forward. They stay stuck there, hoping that somebody would come and save them, but that somebody may never show up. So the somebody who has to save a victim of abuse is the victim themselves, right? And by identifying as a victim, it's very hard to move forward. So I always recommend to use the word survivor to, even if clients come to me and call themselves a victim, I'm like, no, you're not a victim. You are a survivor. You've survived this. This is something so difficult and so painful and so hard, but you've survived it and you have moved past it, right? So to tell a survivor about or reminding them of their own strength, their inner strength, helps them to move forward because the world never really sits with them or validates or acknowledges what they've gone through. So it's very important to have a partner or a coach or a therapist who helps you to move forward from the trauma instead
Right.
of keeping you stuck there.
I'm a firm believer in therapy, and I'm sure that as a life coach, you would work hand in hand with therapists to give your client the most potential, as you say. Now,
Yeah.
I do know
Yeah.
some people that don't like to use the word high conflict because they
Hmm.
say the minute you say you're in a high conflict custody battle or court, whatever, you label it as high conflict and you label yourself as high conflict. So sometimes you have to choose your wording.
Yeah, that's true. I think out here, at least most of the clients who've told me that they use the word high conflict, that worked better than narcissist because when they used the word narcissist, it didn't go down well. So I think I would say it depends on what works. You can see, you can just try it out and see, but definitely don't use the word narcissist.
I've heard that before. So I guess many parents also feel like they've lost themselves with court battles or toxic relationships.
Hmm.
What are some
Hmm.
first steps that they can do to reclaim their confidence maybe
Yeah.
after the fact?
Yeah. So the first thing or the first step I would say is to rebuild that self talk that they have. Because what
Okay.
happens in narcissistic abuse is it's almost like a virus that has been downloaded into your system. Like if
Right.
you look at ourselves or our body like a computer. So
Right.
imagine somebody just comes and puts a virus, right? The entire system is going to get corrupted. So they mess with your self talk. So the first thing to do is to kick the narcissist out of your head, out of your life. And whenever that self critical talk comes, saying you're not good enough, you're going to mess this up. So you kind of replace it with something which is more compassionate, saying that
Okay.
it's all right if I made a mistake, right? I can try harder next time. I can do
Right.
better next time. And also another thing I tell my clients is to write on a post-it and stick it on their bathroom mirror so that every morning when they brush their teeth, they can see a few nice affirmations. Something as simple as I'm enough, right? I'm
Right.
worthy. I'm lovable, right? So that is almost like retraining your brain. So these are simple strategies. So I tell them stick it inside your cupboard, stick it on a fridge so that it's constantly there reminding you. It's not
Right.
something just in a journal that when you open the journal, you're reminding yourself. And this is something which once it becomes a habit, so every time you're in a bad frame of mind, it becomes a habit to fall back on affirmations. So affirmations is something which really have a positive impact. And the important thing about affirmations is it has to be in present tense. It should be positive
Present.
words
Right.
in present tense. So it can't be like, I will be strong. The word should be, I am strong.
I am
Because the
strong.
brain
Yeah.
recognizes something that you're telling in the present moment. So it is very important to do that.
Yeah. I'm also a believer in self care, doing things to better, whether it's a massage or even just a manicure, just doing things to take care of you.
Yeah, that helps a lot. In fact, massage kind of moves the emotions which are trapped in the body. So when we learned Reiki, we learned about how we have an energy body around us. So the soul is seated inside, then we have this physical body, and then we have an energy body which is around us. So when you meet people who have like lower energies or who are toxic or who are narcissists, what you will realize is your energy body interacts with their energy body. Literally, you feel like your energy is draining out, right? It's almost like your battery is drained out and you're irritable or you're upset or you're angry and you're not able to understand what exactly happened. I just went and met this person for 5 minutes, and I'm coming back all annoyed. It's because you've entered their energy field, right? And they suck out your positive energy, and that happens. So we don't pay attention to it, but the more aware we become, the more we realize that we need to limit interactions with people who are toxic. Because if we continue to interact with them, they'll continue to drain and deplete your energy.
Right. How does Reiki help with all of that? Can you explain what it is for those that don't know?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, Reiki is to do with the healing the energies which is around us. So in India, we call it as drishti or nazar, or somebody casting a bad eye. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody who may look at you and they be like, oh, look, she's so beautiful and she has a beautiful house and she has a great career. So not everybody has a good intention when they say that. Some of them say it with a bad intent, and that kind of gets trapped in your energy body. And Reiki healing is about using a few words and a few moments, and there are a few the moments which help to unclog and release the energies which are trapped, or the negative energies which are trapped in your energy aura. So
Okay.
that's how that works. But yeah, so more than Reiki, I think the first step would be the somatic healing and the body work, the breath work. That helps a lot more. Reiki is like a second step. And there's also something called EMDR. Have you come across that?
I've been actually told I should maybe try it, but I haven't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in fact, that helps to release a lot of trapped trauma. And surprisingly, there is a dance form in India called Bharatanatyam. So, where there is an eye movement which is similar to the eye movement which they do in
Right.
EMDR, because ask you to move your eyeball from left to right and left to right and think of a memory which is traumatic. And
Right.
apparently, that helps to release the trauma. And I
Yeah,
actually
I've been
saw.
interested, but I haven't done it. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So EMDR helps, and there's something called EFT, the emotional freedom tapping technique. So if you just Google or just
I
type
will.
EFT, so there
Okay.
are guided videos on how to do it. So there are certain energy meridian points like here, like below the nose, the chin, and below the collarbone. So
Right.
you kind of
To
tap
tap it.
those points. Yeah, you tap
Okay.
those points and you repeat few affirmations. So suppose you
Gotcha.
have a money block, you tap and say that although I'm having a difficulty right now, I will get over this money block and I'm going to release myself from this and I'm going to tap into abundance. So it's a lot of like a work of affirmation along with activating those energy points in the body.
Well, fascinating. I'm actually going to look up all of this because I am all
Yeah.
about, like I said, self care and
Yeah.
feeling, the best that I can be. So
Yeah.
I'm going to look up all that and I will put all of that in the show notes. Now, you started Activate.u, correct?
Yeah.
And that's the name of your life coaching company?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's activating your inner best self.
Okay. And can anyone reach out to you
Yeah,
for,
yeah, yeah.
and
So
you do
I
virtual?
share my links. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I have clients across the world. I have clients in New Jersey, in
Okay.
California,
Yep.
in Dubai, Australia. So most of my clients are across,
Okay.
and even in
Great.
India, most of my clients are in other cities. So I do my sessions online, and a
Okay.
few people who are in Bangalore where I live, I meet them for in-person sessions.
Okay, great. I'll put all of that in the show notes. One thing I also want to touch on are like children. So if you have kids and you're dealing with some sort of toxic relationship, what are some realistic ways that parents can balance healing, working, but also raising their kids and modeling resilience so that their kids
Okay.
are
Okay.
emotionally whole?
Yeah. So this is a question I get asked a lot. And in fact,
Okay.
I fall back on few of the things which I picked up from reading that book by Carl Knickerbocker, the parallel
Okay.
parenting
Yeah.
book.
Parallel. Yeah.
So he says, so he says, do not badmouth the narcissistic parent to the children, because the children, even if they see that, okay, this parent is doing something wrong, they don't like to hear one parent badmouthing the other parent. So you can call out something which is toxic. You can say, okay, the way, this person shouted at you was not okay. The way they dealt with you was not okay. But we should not keep badmouthing them and say that, look, they're a narcissist, right? Don't talk to them or shout back at them. So that would be a wrong role modeling for the children. So when we are a healthy parent ourselves, when we regulate our emotions, when we don't suppress our emotions, we are assertive, we speak up for ourselves. So children notice that. right? And when they see
Sure.
that, okay, it's only the other parent who is like just going on picking fights, and there's drama always when that other parent is around. But when this parent who's stable is around, there's no drama and there's peace at home. So children learn by themselves, right? We don't need to tell them, they figure it out. So I think staying calm, being able
Right.
to cope and regulate with our own nervous system dysregulation becomes so important. So if we are stable and calm, we become a great role model for our children. And having one healthy parent is actually sometimes good enough. Because I think society guilt trips you into thinking you need both parents to have a good home, otherwise, the children are from a broken home. But I don't agree with that. Because if the children are able to see one healthy parent and learn good things from one healthy parent, that is good enough. And that
Right.
home is not broken.
Very true. Kids are pretty resilient, but it's amazing the things that they do pick up on that you wouldn't even think. They are so smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely a challenge to keep
Yeah.
that away from the child so they don't see it, but also deal with
Yeah.
it.
It's not possible to completely shield them from it because if you're living under the same roof with a narcissist, there's bound to be dramas, there's bound to be wars, right? So you can't completely shield them from it. But however, you can be that calm parent who, will be a good role model for them.
Yeah.
A
In
safe,
my
a
case,
safe parent.
I didn't live with Grayson's father, and I had to deal we lived separately, and Grayson went back and forth every 2 days, and
Okay.
it was hard when I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go, and I have to be like, "But you have so much fun there." And I had to make him wanna go, and that was challenging for me because I didn't want him to go either.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. It's not a good place to be. And in fact, I know a lot of parents who tell me, clients who tell me that they stay in the marriage because they don't want to go through that. The
Right.
fact that they'll have to stay separately in two different homes and kind of the children will have to juggle or keep moving between two homes. And it's really sad. It all boils
Yep,
down to a lot of unhappy people and unhappy marriages who are just stuck
absolutely.
together because of either financial reasons or because of the children.
Right.
So I hope that changes. I hope that changes.
Yeah, me too. So, if a listener that's listening feels hopeless or stuck right now, what's one small thing that they can do today to start moving forward
So
besides
I would
calling
say,
you?
yeah, so I would say start writing down your thoughts because sometimes when it's all in the head, it's too
Right.
much to deal with.
Sure.
And sometimes the people in your inner circle may not understand what you're going through, and not everybody can afford therapy or coaching. So the next best thing you can do to help yourself immediately is to start writing down your emotions
Okay.
and
Journaling.
sometimes even ripping it up. Yeah, ripping it up because that is like an anger release.
Right.
And in fact, surprisingly, in Bali, I went to this healing temple. It's called Waterfall Healing Temple, and the name of the temple is Beji Griya. So
Okay.
they have this emotional healing activities there where they take you under a waterfall and ask you to scream. So you have to just scream
Oh,
and
I love
scream
that.
till you let out all that suppressed anger and grief which is there inside you. And then they
Right.
take you under another waterfalls and then you're supposed to just laugh and laugh. And it's like
Oh, I
hilarious.
love that.
But yeah, by the time you're done with it, you feel so calm and grounded.
Right.
And you literally feel you've just been healed. Right?
I'm
So
told to
yeah.
scream in a pillow and just get it out.
Yeah, scream, punch, just release it, right? Because emotions is nothing but energy in motion. So we need to release it out from our body. It's only when we hold it in is an issue. So whoever cannot get out or do anything can try these things at home. And whoever can go to Bali, I would say please go visit that temple. It's amazing. So
I
it's
would
a
love
very
to
good
go.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope you get to
Even
go
crying
there.
is a good release. Everyone's
Yeah.
probably cry at least once a day. And I have for
Okay.
4 years.
Okay.
And it's not always a bad thing. It's a way for me to remember and release, remember and
Yeah.
release.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-soothing. Yeah, that becomes
uh,
very important.
Right.
So yeah, I think they're not weakness. I think tears is a sign of strength and the fact that we are able to self-soothe. So I'm
That's
really
true.
proud of you for the work that you've been doing and
Well,
for
thank
the
you.
way that you're beautifully healing and also trying to help other people around the world. And may God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, where can listeners contact you?
So activate.you, I have my LinkedIn, my
Okay.
Instagram.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing such powerful insights on healing and confidence and I guess reclaiming your voice after trauma. And for those of you that are listening, remember you don't have to carry the weight of your experiences alone. There are tools, there are practices, and people like Ramya who are here to not just help you survive, but truly thrive. So thank you so much for talking with us, and I hope to reconnect again.
Same here. We'll be in touch.
All right, sounds good. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
If there's someone that you want to hear from on this podcast, please feel free to send me an email. Or if you would like to be a guest, please reach out at Allie@graysonschoice.org.